Hello, everyone, and welcome back to You Are Your Business podcast. I'm very excited today to be chatting with Ariel Balfour. I've known Ariel for a couple of years now. We met through Lou Clark, and Ariel is such a warrior, and she is the Viking queen. She is the reclamation warrior, and she empowers others to reclaim their power through raw, transformative emotional healing. That was a tongue tie for me there. Blending ancient wisdom, modern modalities, and warrior resilience to unlock the ultimate potential. So, welcome, Ariel. I'm so excited to have you on the podcast to chat today.
Thank you for having me. I love being here. Yeah, that was a tongue twister. Transformative.
Transformative. It did not
There
want
we
to
go.
come out for me. Yes.
I
Oh,
was having a moment.
I was having a
Yeah, no.
moment.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ariel Balfour. I am the Viking Queen and Reclamation Warrior. I help entrepreneurs really dive into the limiting beliefs, self-sabotage, and blocks that hold them back from reaching their ultimate goals of hitting those six-figure, seven-figure moments, breaking through the glass ceilings, and healing the things that they don't even know are holding them back from the success in their business. And so I really am a no BS coach. I come in, I go within minutes of talking to somebody, can actually see the gaps within their business, within their emotional healing, which is holding back their business, and can actually give them a real edgy, raw approach to getting beyond all of those blocks and stepping into their fullest potential. I love what I do and I love the results that my people get. So I'm so excited to be on here and talking to you.
Yes, amazing. And it's such a need because, throughout our entrepreneurial journey, like I always say, it's a personal development journey just as much as it is like being an entrepreneur, right? So, for our listeners, why don't you share a little bit about like how did you become an entrepreneur? Because I'm sure, like you've mentioned to me, like off camera before through our discussions, you've had, multiple different opportunity entrepreneurial careers. So, like, let's hear a little bit more.
Yeah, I was never meant to be a yellow duck in the world. I am a purple duck among the yellow ducks. I stand out. I was not meant to be in an office. I tried it. It was awful. I got fired so many times. But honestly, my entrepreneurial journey started when I was just a child. I loved everything about business and making money. I used to save my quarters and I would buy lemonade and create lemonade stands, and then I'd make little friendship bracelets and add those on. If you bought a jug of lemonade, you got a friendship bracelet. Like it's
Look at you stacking bonuses already, right?
it was in my blood since the time I was a little girl. Like I just loved selling and trying new things. Um, and throughout my adulthood, of course, we're told that we need to go to university, get a good job, all of these things. And I did all that. In fact, I have so many certifications. I have 4 degrees and now 57 certifications. It's insane. And I love it. But I was like, I'm not meant to be in a box. And so for
Hmm.
me, the societal norm just never fit well with me. I was always, to the outside world, bouncing around from job to job. But really, I'm an entrepreneur of self development and growth and education. I am a Jane of all trades. If you've gone through something, I most likely have some tools, techniques, and modalities that are going to get you through it because I've probably already been there. I've died 3 times, literally, heart stopped, we're done. I met my maker, and he was like, "Nah, we're not ready for you yet. Go back."
You have so
So,
much to do and give still. Yes.
yeah, no, he's like, we here have not prepared enough for the Ariel, okay? So just go back. We'll figure
Yeah.
it out later. And so, like, honestly, my entrepreneur journey, like, I don't believe that I was meant to be on this planet to do just one thing. Although I feel like now in my later years of life, I found the thing that I meant to finish off with and stick with because I had to go through all of that to become the mentor that I am today. And without all of that, I don't think I'd be as potent. And so for me, I was like, I've been everything from I owned a dog training business. It was called Fido Frontier, boldly going where no pup has gone before. Yes, I'm a nerd. It's amazing.
Love it.
I was a doula. I was a personal trainer. I was an MMA coach. Like I've done so many different things. I was a paramedic, like a firefighter, take your pick. I've done
Yeah,
so many different things, and to the point where if I really think about it, I don't even know if I could list them all off, you know? So it's my entrepreneurial journey is still going, and I love learning and developing and changing and just taking that next step because I think it is a journey that never ends, really.
absolutely. And I think with you having like the experience of going through like the different career paths and stuff like that, and then you being an entrepreneur yourself, you're able, like, I love that you're helping other entrepreneurs because you're able to really like tap in and understand it. And I feel like we're a unique breed. So the fact that like most
Well, and
people don't get us, right? So
that's
yeah.
the funny thing, like, this was never originally my group of people that I was speaking to. You know, I initially started with talking to the person who had mental health, disorders that was being pigeonholed by society and stuff,
Yep.
and it was funny because I've been there as a bipolar who was diagnosed on medication, took myself off medication successfully 20 years without meds, you
Yep.
know, I know it's possible, but at the same point, I was like, not everybody was at the point in their life that I was, but the one thing I can talk on for hours is being an entrepreneur because I live this life. A stay-at-home mom with a business. Hi, I do that too, right?
Yep.
Having kids that are neurodivergent while you're trying to run a business. Hi, I have neurodivergent kids, right? It's something that I live and breathe every single day. And I was just like, we're such a unique breed of people because nothing stands in our way except for ourselves, and yet sometimes we'll even try and ignore that and just push and push and push into because we're so driven to get to
Yes.
the other side. And so
Yes.
that's when I was like, oh, this makes so much sense because these are my people. These are the I call them the pit bulls of the world. They're just like they see their end goal and they're like, I gotta get there.
We've got a
And
goal, we've got a vision, we've got a mission, and you're like, let me like, no, nothing's stopping me. I'm working my way to it.
yeah, yeah. So I love working with entrepreneurs because they have a different fire that nobody else has. And
Yeah.
although I'm open to helping everybody who needs to work through, trauma, limiting beliefs, and self-sabotage, I was like, the people who have the tenacity, the resiliency, and the absolute like don't fuck with me moments, that's
Yep.
entrepreneurs. They're a different breed completely.
Absolutely. And I also think too, because you know how I mentioned, like, it's also like a personal development journey for us as well, that we know, okay, well, if I work through this, that's only going to help excel my company. That's only going to help excel my team as well, too. So I think that that's also why we're driven a little bit differently as well, too.
Yeah, 100%. And like that's why I love it. Like it's just such a passion of mine. And then to like it was like a light bulb went off in my head and I was like, "Oh my god, these are my people."
Yep.
And
It's
they get it because there's so many times in life where I look at the average person down the street and they meet me and they're like, "I'm so intimidated by who you are." But the people who aren't are other entrepreneurs because they're like they see my fire and they want in on it. Right?
absolutely.
And instead of being intimidated and shying away from it, they're like, "Yeah, give me more."
Help me, support me, teach me more. So, is there like a favorite modality that you'd like to use?
Oh, yes. So one of the modalities, it is my main modality that I use. I call it the like steroids of all modalities. It includes so many components to it, and it gets to the deepest root. It's called R.R.E.S.T. We just call it rest, but it
Yep.
has two R's, which is rapid reprogramming emotional stress technique. So imagine this, right? We are in a kitchen concocting like the most amazing witch's brew. And in this brew, you've got NET, NLP, theta meditation, EMDR,
Mhm.
hypnosis, acupressure, breath work, and a few others to add in there as well as like talk therapy and
Yep.
journaling and all these other things. You add it all into one modality that is like a super punch that can just heal the most deepest, rawest parts of yourself. But here's the kicker, without actually having to relive your trauma.
That is
That's the
huge.
that is
Yeah.
the huge part because as somebody who is bipolar, I spent so many years seeing so many different psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, And the one thing that they all had in common was all they wanted to do was have me talk about how I felt about things and relive situations that I was desperately trying to repress and go
Yeah.
away from because I didn't feel safe talking about them. But the beautiful thing about rest is that we find the trigger that's happening now, and then we find the statements that are attached to that that cause stress in the body, and then we create a story like memory that we
Yeah.
can attach all those emotions to, and we clear them using multiple different modalities along the way. And what it's doing is it's like brain surgery without actually cutting your head open. And we are cutting and severing the old negative pathways of thinking, feeling, reactions, and triggers. And we are building a super highway into your frontal cortex, your logical, your sage brain, your brain that knows that everything's okay. And so we are bypassing this lizard brain 1.0 that's telling us we need to panic, the saber-tooth tiger is coming, and we
Yeah.
sever that and we rebuild this superhighway to the front where our brain goes, you know what? Let's look at this from other angles. And you actually can heal parts of yourself that you didn't even know existed in a way that is so magical and so uplifting without ever having to relive that trauma that got you there in the first place. So it's my favorite modality
Yeah.
because it's a power punch of everything.
It is. It's so
Yeah.
amazing and powerful. And the fact that you're not having to like go back and relive. And I think too, like, especially with working with entrepreneurs, we're always forward thinking. Like, okay, yeah, I tried this, whatever, it's done. Let's like go forward and move forward kind of thing. So I feel like that's such like a good fit for like entrepreneurs as well too, because it's like we don't want to have to go back and relive things. We've done that. Like, let's move forward.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, as somebody who has a lot of childhood trauma, like if anybody is familiar with ACEs and like adverse childhood
Yeah.
experiences, we all have trauma. We all
Yeah.
have trauma. It may not be the big bad trauma that we think of. It
Yeah.
could be something as simple as, you get to kindergarten and you're that kid that brought your stuffy to the first day and all the other kids are looking at you funny and you create this internal story of not being good enough.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this big momentous thing, but we all have trauma. And for me, when I was going through therapy, it was like I knew what the issue was. I knew what caused the trauma. I didn't want to go back there
Yeah.
because talking about it was re-traumatizing me because I left every single appointment so frustrated, being like, stop asking me how I feel about it. Clearly I feel bad. How do I fix this? And they're
How do I move forward? Like, yeah.
right? Like they're like, "Oh, you need to be self-aware, and once you're self-aware, it fixes." And I was like, I remember looking at one of the psychologists and being like, "You're useless. Stop doing
Yeah.
your job." And he
Yeah.
just looked at me and I was like, "I'm gonna find a different way." And that was the moment that I started looking at different modalities. And then after that, my liver started to shut down from the mass amounts of medication they had me on that were
So
in
just
fact
the
making me worse.
detoxing.
Well,
Yeah.
and they were making me worse. Like the number one side effect of most antidepressants is may cause suicidal tendencies. And I was like, that is just so wrong.
It is.
So when my liver started to shut down from too much toxicity, I was
Yeah.
like, here's my moment. The universe is opening up and saying, Ariel, you've learned that there's other ways to do this. Go, do it. And I did. Right.
Yes.
But why I love this is like when I found rest, I was like, you mean I can heal and it's going to change? And my, like, even now, triggers that used to send me off the deep end, they happen. And it's like, I can feel the moment where my body wants to react. And then it's like a flip of a switch. And then all of a sudden I'm just like, okay, well, what do I have control over right now? What do I not? Oh,
Yes.
and it's like I all of a sudden in this sage brain, this elevated consciousness, and I'm making the changes, and therefore it has no control over me anymore. But I never had to relive the memory that got me there. Because
Yes.
your brain will not heal if you force it to go there. Your brain will only heal what it is ready to heal in the way that it is ready to heal it.
Yes, that is such a good point too, because I think when we try to force things or bypass things, they just come up again and sometimes even with a vengeance, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Emotions repressed become expressed whether you like it or not.
Yes.
There was a time in my life where dirty dishes in the sink would take me from 0 to 10,000 like a crazy person,
Yes.
right? Or if I saw dirt on the floor and all of a sudden I'm hyper focused, hyper anxious about it,
Yeah.
and it would like it was a real problem. Like no one should have to live like that. And the one thing that I love about this in relation to entrepreneurs is if you're feeling this chaos internally in your home life,
Yeah.
it is reflecting 100% in your business, whether you are consciously aware of it or not.
Absolutely. I think that even goes with like I'm thinking of like organization. Like if you're not organizing your house, that's also showing like in your business as well too. If you're not communicating in your house, that's also probably reflecting in your business as well too. Like I think there's such a huge correlation between the two. Absolutely.
Yeah, they always say for bipolars and ADHDers, they're like messy mind, messy home, right?
Yeah.
It's the same principle, right? In your business and in your personal life, it is a direct mirror. And our kids are a great example of this.
Absolutely.
Children are mirrors to your internal chaos. They are not back talking to you because they want to make you mad. And they're not reacting because they want to make you mad. What's happened is your energy has shifted. They feel that. And now their brain 1.0, because they don't have the prefrontal cortex
Yeah.
developed yet, triggers that there's danger and they need to fight, flee, freeze, whatever. And so it becomes this thing where we get even more triggered because they're not
Mhm.
listening. But it's like if we
Yeah.
just stopped and looked at ourselves for a moment, we could shift everything.
Absolutely. You're even thinking about like this morning in our house, we were like panicking because everyone had like slept in a little bit. We were rushing to get to school, which I hate doing because I do not like to start like our mornings that way. Plus, we have like a cleaner who was coming to clean the house today. And I normally get ready like the night before, but I didn't for some reason last night. So it was like stacking all these things that like I didn't get done. And then my 7-year-old I was like asking her to have breakfast and also clean up. And then she's going, Mommy, I'm so confused because I don't know what to do. You're telling me too many things to do. And it was such like a good reminder in that moment, even like what you're saying for me of like, okay, check myself, check my energy, check how am I starting my day? How am I starting her day? Because she's reflecting back to me like, my brain's overwhelmed with all the things you're trying to get done in this moment, right? So, yeah, that's such a good reminder.
Yeah, and like in those moments, like I've had those moments in my household. And I'll tell you right now that my son being ADHD, like that leads to a rage outburst
Yeah.
if he is feeling rushed and overwhelmed like that. So like at the end of the day, I sit there and I go, like we had this morning where he was like, oh, like I gotta get this and I gotta get that, and like he's running around the house, and I was like, hey, stop, grab my hands for a second, let's take a breath. What's the worst that's gonna happen if we forget this?
Yeah.
I can come back and get it and drive it to you. Like we're good.
Yeah.
We're good. And I was like, if we're a few minutes late, it's okay. Like, yes, we might have appointments and stuff after, but at the end of the day, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, the more hyped up you are, the more you behind schedule you become.
Oh, absolutely, because 'cause you're
Right?
not
Because
thinking
now all of a sudden
clearly.
you're
Yep.
dropping your keys, you're stubbing your toe on the way out on the
Yep.
edge of the bed. Like the more energetically chaotic we are, the actually worse like things that are happening because our energy is now negative. It's attracting more negativity. And then our brain actually stops operating in a way that it can think logically.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so for our listeners that are, entrepreneurs that tend to listen here, if they're feeling some of that, like, chaos that's happening, like, within their home or their kids, and there's now kind of probably I'm sure a lot of you listeners are starting to have that awareness of, like, "Oh, no, crap, this is also happening in my business." Like, what's the first step? Like, where do they start kinda thing to, like, start to take those steps to change things?
Yeah, so the first step is awareness always, right? Being aware that it's starting to pile up, like whether it's the to-do list on your work list, your home is getting chaotic. Being aware that it's starting to have a negative impact is step 1. Okay? Once you've acknowledged that that has happened, step 2 is to take a second and breathe. Okay? Your breath is the most powerful tool you have available to you. Your brain, when you actually get anxious, you shallow breathe and you actually put your body even more into a fight flight response. So taking I love tactical breaths. So 4
Yeah.
in through the nose, hold for 4, out through the mouth for 4, hold for 4. And I do only 3 breaths like that. It takes less than 30 seconds, you guys. Do that. Get those 3 breaths out of the way. And then step 3 is ask yourself, what do I have control over? Actually, you know what? I'm going to even backtrack that. I'm going to
Yeah.
say the next step is to ask yourself first, am I in immediate danger? Let's get the logical brain to come on board first by
Yes.
asking, am I in danger? Like, if I don't make this appointment exactly on time, am I going to die? And I know it sounds ridiculous, but your brain does not know the difference between being chased by a saber-toothed tiger and being late for an appointment.
Yep.
Right? Same thing as if it doesn't know the difference between being, starving and not being able to find food and your client saying, "Hey, I might need a refund."
Yeah.
It does not know the difference. So the first thing is to show it that you are not going to die. And in those exact words, am I in immediate danger? Am I going to die? No? Okay. That's a good relief. Thank you.
Yeah.
Next one is to ask yourself, what do I have control over? Right? I
Yeah.
can't control that my kids are feeling overwhelmed unless I control myself first. So what I do have control over is me,
Yep.
right? If I have a to-do list, what do I have control over? Choosing the things that are going to be the most time sensitive and choosing one thing to start with, right?
Absolutely.
What do I have control over?
Yep.
Right, because that now gives you so now your brain's back online, your
Yep.
prefrontal cortex. Then the next step is now we know what we can control. The next step after that is say, what do I not have control over? Right? Or sorry, what do I have control over? What do I not have control over? Whichever way you want to do those first.
Yeah.
But like, which ones can I affect and which ones can I not? And the reason being is that the things that you cannot control, no matter how much you will yourself, you think about it, your kids are screaming at you, whatever, you can't control their reactions, right? You can only
Absolutely.
control yours.
How you're responding to the reactions. Yep.
Exactly. So if I can't control how my customer receives what I've delivered to them, if I can't control, how my kids are responding to me being like, I'm rushing around, being like, hey guys, we gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. I can't control that. But what I can control is what my response is because I'm modeling the behavior that I want to see.
Yep.
And so I'm taking my power back, going, okay, well, this I have nothing to control over that. All of a sudden, let's say you're out and about, and you get out of your car and it downpours rain on you, and you ruin your outfit. You have no control over that,
Yep.
right? Maybe next time the thing we can control is we can put an umbrella in our car and keep it in our car, right?
Yes.
And so it's a great way of letting go of what you literally cannot control and gaining your power back by looking at what you can control,
Okay.
right?
Very helpful. Yeah.
This is what I do every single day, right? So
Yeah.
step 1, aware. Step 2, breathe.
Yep.
Step 3, am I gonna die? I always think of that guy off of The Hangover. But did you
I
die?
know.
Right?
Now I'm gonna have that in my head all the time.
And then you're whichever order you want to do, what do I have control over? What do I not?
Not
And
have.
then the final step is, what are my next steps?
Yes.
The next 3 steps. We don't need to look at 20 steps down the road, what we're doing in 5 hours. What are my next 3 steps? Okay? What do I need right now? Sometimes, depending if it's chaos and the kids are like freaking out and everything, it's like, okay, well, I know I can control how I react, but I can't calm down right now. So I need to take a moment. I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm going to take 10 deep cleansing breaths and I'm going to
Yep.
shake it out. And then I'm going to come out and I'm going to be like, hey guys, what can I do to help you get ready? Right?
Yep.
Like, I plan the next 3 steps because if we live in the past of what we can't control, we feel depressed. If we are
Absolutely.
trying to control a future that has not happened yet, we feel anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It is a gift to be present, and that's why it's called the present.
And it's one of the most challenging things to do is
Mhm.
being staying grounded and in
Yeah.
the present. Absolutely too.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of where I stand on that. This is such a simple protocol, but it is so shifting for
Yes.
all aspects of your life because it is so easy to do and it is quick. I know I explained it in a long way, but it literally takes 5 minutes or less to do
Yeah. And
from
to
start to
shift like the
finish.
rest of your day,
Mhm.
essentially too. And then you have that clarity to be like, okay, now going forward, I'm going to try to make this decision differently, or I'm going to look at things this way, kind of thing, right? As opposed to just repeating that same habit and that same pattern and emotional response too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So, have you noticed any common like blocks or limiting beliefs that kind of come with like entrepreneurs?
Unworthiness, which is
Interesting.
such a random one to think of,
Yeah.
right? It's like there's this guilt and this shame that we live as entrepreneurs of like, I feel unworthy to make more money. I feel unworthy to have all of this attention on me,
Yeah.
and it's this unworthiness piece that really holds a lot of entrepreneurs back. But I'll tell you this, one of my biggest core beliefs is that, I used to fight making a lot of money because I thought money was the root of all evil, but that was how I was raised.
And the belief that you were given at a
And
young age. You'd be
it was
like, yep.
placed upon me, not my own story. But I now have shifted my belief pattern through rest.
Yes.
And my belief pattern is that big money in the hands of good people does good things.
Yes. I listen to Chris Harder's podcast, and that's always his tagline is when good people make money, they do good things. And it's always like, absolutely. Like there's so much good in the world, but we absolutely can hold ourselves back from that too.
Well, and I think because people have these negative internal stories that they may or may not be aware of, they subconsciously believe that they are not a good person and therefore that makes them feel like they can't do good things. But I'll
Yeah,
tell you this, like money inherently will make you more of what you already are. So if you are a good person, it's going to do good things. But if you are
absolutely.
sitting there anxious and feeling unworthy and not making good choices in your life, it's going to lead to more bad choices and more feelings of unworthiness and more of the negative aspects to it. So this is why understanding your internal stories that were either placed
Yeah.
on you by others or developed throughout your childhood are
Yeah.
so important, because you have the ability to change that story or let go of the stories that were never yours to begin with.
Absolutely, and especially as an entrepreneur, we're innovative, we're creative, we're growing, we're evolving, like our business is growing. Like, so the fact to be able to like work through that story and release that unworthiness for any entrepreneur that's feeling that way, like I feel like the sky's the limit then because you have gifts that's why you created your business. And then by now being able to release that unworthiness, like you're able to call in more and have capacity for more as well.
Well, I'll tell you about a big shift I recently had.
Yeah.
And, it was a story placed on me by my mother, and she doesn't even know she did it
Yep.
because she wasn't even aware. This is how deep this can go, guys. And
Yep.
I'm sure it was also placed on her by her mother. Like, we're talking
Yep.
genetic, generational stuff here.
Yep.
But the thing I realized was I was raised watching her to believe that entrepreneurship was you work your ass off and you never make enough, and then at the end of your life, you're left with nothing.
Yep.
And this was a story that I had inherently taken on myself just by observing my surroundings. She would work 70, 80, 90 hours a week, and she still does. And yet I shifted this story for myself. And I believe you can be a 6 and 7 figure earner easily with working less hours in the day, taking care of
Absolutely.
yourself, putting yourself and your family first. Right? Because
Absolutely.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
this was an interesting belief pattern that I had to work through. It's not like she did this to me. It's not like she knew that this was the
That
story
she was doing
to go,
this. Yeah.
but it was the story that I saw.
Yes.
Perception is everything, and this was my perception. And I didn't even know it was the thing holding me me back from breaking the glass ceiling. And as soon as I did that, everything was just like, oh,
Yes, and kinda like
oh,
what you said, it's like first you had that awareness piece, and then you're like, "Okay, now what can I control? What can I not control?" Kind of like going back to those steps that you
yeah,
did too, right? Of like having
exactly.
that awareness with that story.
Well, and I was just like, is the to add this to an internal story, another question you ask yourself is this my story or somebody else's? And then in this case, I was like, well, this isn't my story. This is just something I observed. And I was like,
Absolutely.
so it doesn't have to be my truth, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, it was a game changer for
It
sure.
is, and I think it's interesting because funny enough, I had this conversation with my mom earlier today about how our generation is so much more aware of the patterns and trying to break those patterns and not pass them on to like our children. Because my mom is doing like an exercise program right now, trying to change some of like eating habits and stuff like that. And she said to me, if you were to go into a meeting with 25 people and everybody was eating pizza and you brought a salad, would you eat the pizza like everybody else or would you have the salad? I was like, I would eat the salad because I brought the salad and I'm making like a healthier choice in my life. And this is what I don't have to do what everyone else is doing. She's like, damn it. She's like, I said I would eat the pizza because everyone else is doing it. I said, I know because you care way too much about what people think. And that's why you're doing it. But the fact that she's like, it was this light bulb moment for her going, oh crap, like and then she's like, "Well, I got that from my mom." I'm like, "I know you did. I know you got that from grandma. I know that you feel that way." But I'm like, "I'm putting a stop to that because I no longer am feeling that I need to care all the time about what everyone thinks, and that's not going to happen to our daughters, right?" So, yeah.
Exactly. And this, I think that right now there is a collective conscious awakening in
Yes.
our generation that has happened. And I mean, of course, in some aspects it swung too far one way, but we're coming into this conscious awareness and breaking cycles that have held our generations like hold like prisoners for years and multiple generations. And like, women are now starting to stand in their power and fight for their rights. And like, we're seeing people who are like, I'm stopping the cycle of alcoholism, of drug abuse, of sexual abuse. Like, I'm stopping it. It stops here. I always say that, like, the devil always told me that I would never survive the storm. And he didn't know what he was going to run into until he ran into me,
Yeah.
because I am that storm.
Yes.
And it is one of those things where, you know, generational trauma ran through my family until it ran into me.
Yeah.
And I said, we stop here. We're done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh. And my kids will end up like, don't get me wrong, guys. For those of you with kids as entrepreneurs, you're still going to cause micro traumas to your children. You cannot avoid it. You cannot be a perfect parent. Let that shit go. It's outside of your control. We're
Yes.
human. We are all human. And in fact, a little bit of trauma is actually really good for resiliency and tenacity. Okay. But don't try and be the perfect parent. I know for me, I went into trying to be the perfect parent, and that led to more shame, guilt, and repression of emotions. So don't do that.
Well,
But
and then it's also not helping our kids because we're not teaching them, like you said, resilience or anything because we're like putting them in this little bubble now.
yeah. And so what happens is, as a result, you're going to heal the main traumas, but then in their generation, now that you've healed those, they're going to see the ones that you didn't heal and heal those. And now,
Yes.
instead of having a cycle, a generational cycle of negative, you're now upcycling into the positive. And in 3, 4 generations down the road, all of a sudden, like I wish I could live that long to see the collective awakening. It's gonna
Yes.
be magical. It really is. So many people are putting their healing above all else now, and that's what's but like never in the history of the world has there ever been so many millionaires and billionaires, and most of them are
Yes.
in their 20s.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
crazy,
It's
So,
amazing and showing you the proof that it's possible and that things are shifting, right? So,
yeah, 100%.
yeah.
100%.
Okay. So I know you have a program coming up as well too about parents and kids helping with like emotional regulation. So I feel like this program would be for essentially anybody that's a parent, but I feel like this would also be really helpful as entrepreneurs. So it's kind of like what we were speaking about, how, if we're able to help regulate that, we can also help bring that into our own business too.
Yeah, 100%. So that's the big feelings, brave hearts, emotional regulation for little warriors.
Yep.
It is completely based in occupational therapy techniques, as well as a lot of the modalities that I bring to the table, such as Kundalini, EMDR, EFT tapping, breath work, theta meditation, all of it, with a lot of physical modalities. So, this program, I actually created this program out of survival in my own household
Yeah.
because there was a point where my son, due to having really large tonsils, wasn't sleeping well. So with his ADHD, like he was just a little rage machine, which of course reflected my own internal rage that I wasn't dealing with,
Yeah.
and so I had to get real. Like there was a moment in time where I broke down on the kitchen floor and I was like, I am failing everything right now. My life, my business, parenting, like what am I doing? And then it was, I went through those steps of what, am I dying? Am I
I
dead? Am I
know.
dead right
Yeah.
now? No, in fact, I've lived past 3 deaths. I'm clearly meant to be here.
Absolutely.
And then it was like, okay, well, what can I control? What can I control? And it was like, well, I can control what I do moving forward and accept the fact that I don't need to be a perfect parent. I need to be the parent that tries.
Yes.
And so I went through every single modality I know and that exists out there for kids and adults, and I adapted the adult ones for children. And I literally put this together, and I haven't even figured out what the formula is going to be called. If any listeners got some snazzy names for me, let me know. But this formula that I put together literally takes you from chaos to calm, because
Yes.
there's something for everybody, right? If you have the kid that's a rage ADHD, they call them bull ADHDers because they rage
Yeah.
a lot. There's specific modalities for them. If you have the ADD child that's slightly, autistic, who doesn't really
Yeah.
speak and express themselves, there's stuff for them. Like it is so, and you can adapt all of this for yourself as an adult.
Yes.
And in doing so, when you can model that calm, life just becomes so much easier. And now, where I had no energy at the beginning of the day, I'd wake up thinking, oh my God, I can't wait till I could go back to sleep.
Yes.
And despite the fact that last night we stayed up too late, my husband and I only had a few hours of sleep, um, I woke up this morning and I was ready for the day.
Excited and
Excited for the
function
day.
and like, yep,
And
absolutely.
we had like even my son today on the way to school said, "Mommy, these last few months have felt so much better." And he's like,
Amazing.
he at 5 years old is acknowledging that we have hit a point together, and it's only getting better because the more you practice,
Yes.
the better it gets.
So you're implementing the work that you've created. Absolutely right. Yep.
Embodying that fully. And
Yep.
he's noticing so much so that his teacher said that he's starting to show kids at school who are dysregulated
Oh
how to
my
regulate.
gosh.
The
Oh
other
my
day,
heart.
I was overwhelmed. I was like, I'm starting to get sick, and like I was really tired, and I wasn't reacting externally, but I could feel the internal storm.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, I feel this little hand grab my hand, and he looks me dead in the eyes. He goes, "Mama, just take 3 breaths with me." And I was
Aw.
like, "Okay."
Isn't it amazing when they mirror that back to you and you're like, I feel like mic drop. Like my work here is done. It's not done, but you kind of feel that way because you're like, okay, this is amazing. The fact that like they're already like implementing those things in their own life and that there's help like talking to you about it and talking to friends. Like, oh, that's just
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, and I mean, he's always had like, because I've always been in this line of work,
Yeah.
but I really didn't create this program till later on when my kids were a little bit older. But when like, since the time he was little, because I've modeled this work a lot,
Yeah.
you know, he has always been that kid that would take care of the kid on the spectrum in the classroom. And like, I remember there was a birthday party, we were outside, and everybody started singing happy birthday, and his little friend started to get overwhelmed and shut down and started stimming to try and deal with
Yeah.
it, and nobody was noticing. And my son, at the grand age of like 3.5, runs, grabs his earmuffs, puts them on, and then puts his hands
Oh,
underneath his chin and says, "Look at me. Look at me." And I was just like, you can't you can't even imagine the effect of what you do healing yourself and how it's going to affect your children until you see it in action.
absolutely. And the kindness and again that awareness and that awakening that's happening like oh in our little people. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Like what a
it
special
was
little man you've
beautiful.
got there and the work that you've done.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, he always says he wants to be a police officer like daddy, but I almost am curious to see if he's going to go down the route of being a healer because he has
Yeah,
such a gift.
he has those gifts already is yeah,
Yeah, so
absolutely.
it'll be interesting to see, but his path is his own path, and so I'm excited to see what kind of human he turns into.
Yes, what his journey. So, and I think again, like that's during that program that you have too will help like support that too, as well of us not like forcing our kids and allowing our kids to be
Well, and
themselves
that's
too.
just it. The big thing that I teach a lot in that, I'm even getting a little teary eyed from that.
Yeah,
The big thing that I teach in that program is that it's letting go of the things you can't control.
yeah,
They're tiny, little individual humans. They are not a reflection of you as a person. They are not an extension of you as a person,
yeah,
which means that when they talk back to you, that's because they want to be heard as an individual. You might not
absolutely.
always be able to agree. Like my son might demand something from me that I like, like let's say I want chocolate pudding before dinner,
Yeah,
right? I can't do that in good conscience.
no,
But I can say, "Hey, I love the idea. However, our bodies are going to feel sick if we eat sugar before wholesome food.
yeah.
But how about this? I won't give you so much food that you fill up and you have room for that after." Because his thing is he's always worried he's going to fill up too much.
And then not want to eat. Yeah.
I'm like, I even tried to convince him we all have a dessert stomach. Don't worry about it.
It's true. There's always, well, there's kids also have a snack stomach.
Yes.
Like your
Yes,
snack
they do.
stomach is insane. But
Yes.
yes.
Nobody pre-warned me when I became a mom that I was just going to become a snack bitch.
Pretty much. Yes.
I literally
100%.
I have a snackle box. Yeah, it's like a tackle box, but snack
Yeah.
in
Yep.
every single vehicle in our house. And I have like mini snackle boxes in every type
Yep.
of bag, the taekwondo bag, the school bags, the diaper bag, which is now just a change clothes
Change
bag.
the bag. Yep.
I'm like, there's snacks everywhere. You will never go without snacks in my household.
But it's funny again, I think you go back to like how we were talking earlier about like generation. I don't ever remember having like snacks or water. Like I bring water everywhere for my kids and I'm like I don't even think we drank water as a child, but like it's just so so
No, and
interesting that awareness piece too.
well, and again, it's that awareness piece of like putting your child first and giving them the things that you innately craved but were not given. Like we
Yes.
were as children in our generation told to be seen, not heard. So a
Yes.
lot of us have a hard time speaking our truth. Whereas now, because we are the cycle breakers, our tiny humans do nothing but speak their truth. And
They're very vocal.
then
Yes.
we're triggered by it because we're like, well, you're supposed to listen to me. And it's like, but that's just your triggered programming coming in
Yes.
play that's used to being told to shut up, sit down, and just do what I say.
Yes.
Right. But it's like now we have to change our thinking around that too to be like, oh, okay, they're not just trying to make my life difficult. They want to be seen and heard in who they are.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so for our listeners, is there any kind of like this has been amazing like chatting. I feel like we could chat forever. I'm like, I
Yeah.
can't believe how fast the time's gone by already. But just for any of our listeners, is there any kind of like parting words or like one thing you want them to like really remember kind of thing when it comes to like their own entrepreneurial journey and healing around it?
The only thing standing in the way of your success is you. It's not the strategy, it's not the technique. God, it's not even your messaging. It's you. It's you and the untold stories that are playing on repeat in your brain. You have a choice. You always have a choice to fix and rewrite those stories and to become the version of yourself that you always needed and always wanted to be. I became the version of me I needed as a child. And the success I continuously come across is because I deal with these stories that play in the background that I wasn't even aware that they existed until
Yeah.
I started doing this work, and it's amazing. And so remembering that you are the block standing in your way and that you have the choice to integrate it and move around it and move past it and be the unstoppable version of yourself. Always.
Yes, that is a beautiful message and reminder for ourselves and our listeners that absolutely like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be that way and you can definitely change that too. So I
Yeah.
will make sure to include in the show notes where people can find you. I know we've got Instagram, you're on TikTok. I feel like you're like TikTok famous. Who would even get into that? You've got like so many followers on TikTok as well. And then I'll include you have a PDF as well for like the parents in
Yeah.
around the emotional regulation. So I'll make sure to include that in the show notes as well too. But it's been such a pleasure chatting with you today.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was so great to talk about this. This is the work that's going to change the world, and I am definitely going to be spearheading that wave of change for sure.
Absolutely.